Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Fast Talk, your source for the science of cycling performance. Today we have a fun one in store. We've got 4 people in the room. We've got Trevor Connor, we've got Ryan Kohler, and we've got Jana Martin, the producer that doesn't talk very often. But today you might hear from her a little bit if we convince her to speak. Today we're going to talk about lessons learned in 2020, expectations for 2021. We hope this is a fun one, but we hope you also learn something about mindset, creativity, how athletes of our caliber, which range from very experienced in Trevor's case to very new to the sport in Jana's case, and in between from Ryan and I, how we think about things, how we think about the sport, how we think about progression, how we think about challenge. The 2 questions we're kind of wanting to answer are, despite 2020 being an off year in terms of most racing, riding plans, as we all know, it was a challenge, were you still able to set goals and hit personal achievements in 2020 that you can look back on with satisfaction? And what did you learn from these experiments? We want to tackle that first. And then second, we want to take on 2021. What are your adventure or race plans, goals in 2021? If you need to be hypothetical here, we understand. Ryan, I know you've got plans. We'll see if they happen. I've got plans. We'll see if they happen. Let's just say right now, we get it. It's going to be another interesting year, but let's try to talk hypothetically as if all this stuff is going to happen, plan accordingly.
Let's see what we can do here.
It isn't just us that you're going to hear from today. We also have reached out to a lot of our contributors and other guests in recent times to get their thoughts on lessons from 2020 and looking ahead to 2021. You'll hear from Hannah Finchamp, an Olympic hopeful and professional mountain biker, Jen Sharp, a coach and elite athlete herself, Dr. Seiler, Julie Young, a coach from California, Dr. Stephen Chung, a physiologist from Canada, Grant Holicky, I think you probably know him by now. He's a coach in the Boulder area, coach of some elite cyclocross racers, Colby Pierce, who hosts Cycling and Alignment. And so you'll hear from all of us today on this episode of Fast Talk. Whatever goals you have set for 2021, Fast Talk Laboratories can help you achieve them. From science-based training advice to answers to your personal coaching questions to physiological testing or a smart nutrition plan, Fast Talk Labs can be your personal performance center. Join Fast Talk Laboratories at whatever level is right for you, listener, library, or live, at fasttalklabs.com. Since I like to be the host, I'm going to ask you questions. And I'm going to start with you, Trevor, because you're sitting right across from me.
How did I beat you last night on Zwift?
God, here we go. You beat me because you're a January hero and you're going to be a big old March zero.
Oh, boy. We'll revisit in March.
Yeah, we'll revisit. No, I think you know how to train. You buried yourself last night because when it comes to you and I, we have a little bit of a competitive something going on, and we bring out the best, worst. We bring out the competitive in each other.
Yeah, that was a lot of the worst. I'm running on 1 hour of sleep here because I finished that ride at 6:30 last night. I'm like, I'll go home. I need some food, and then I'll get some work done. I went home, had some food, sat on my couch, and just went, oh my God, I can't move. I did nothing the rest of the evening. I was so exhausted, I couldn't sleep either.
Yeah. You work that hard. I looked over at him at one point. I had already cracked. I cracked a half an hour in because rookie on Zwift, total rookie on Zwift. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. There was a lot of mistakes made. Anyways, I look over at him. His eyes are barely open. He's like, his face is all contorted. There's sweat dripping off of him. He looked like Quado from Total Recall is what she looked like.
Oh, nice reference.
Anybody that doesn't know who Quado is, just Google Quado and see if the crazy creature that
Chris didn't know until I showed him Quado yesterday, so he had to use
I had to use it. All right. Let's get into this. Trevor, let's start with you, since I'm already warmed up on picking on you. No, let's get serious. 2020 was a weird year for you. Tell us a little bit about how you dealt with the year and what you learned.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have the most negatives about 2020, even though we did a whole episode saying set some goals, get something out of it. The reason being for me was I had years where I wasn't racing well. I'd really say the last year I felt I was racing well was 2014. A lot of that was because I was coaching a team where I was racing with them and felt it was not my job as the coach to go into the races and try to win. I was there to help them. So I hadn't really been focusing on my own racing for a while. And I moved back to Colorado in 2019 and said, I want to get back to some racing, to racing at my best for my age. And really sacrificed 2019 to say, I want to be strong for 2020. I knew I needed a year to develop, not knowing what was going to happen in 2020. So after sacrificing a year, I went into 2020 going, now I'm going to race. Mm-hmm. And it was the exact opposite. And we said turn 2020 into a development year. Well, I had just done my development year. I wasn't too excited about yet another dev year. I really needed some racing in my legs. So I was struggling to find what to do, what to focus on. I ultimately just looked for a race. I thought Tobago was going to happen and just kept myself motivated to build towards that. And then about a month and a half before Tobago, the race got canceled.
And for those who don't know, Tour of Tobago, which is early October every year.
Early October, yep. And so it was canceled late August, early September. I had a whole big training block on the plan ahead of me. I saw the announcement, and literally the next day, just at the time that I was supposed to go out training, put a movie on, grabbed some really crappy food, and just went, yeah, my season's done.
Yeah. Well, so there were several disappointments in 2020 for you. You've had time to reflect on it. Did you learn anything from such a year?
Honestly, the thing that I learned was what I knew going into the year, which is interesting to see it, which is how, if you want to race at your best, how important racing is to that. Because I did a lot of training. I did a lot of very structured training, but I'm probably further away from having good race legs than I was going into last year. The reason 2019 was a sacrifice was I spent that year really working on building back my base fitness, building back my numbers, but knew I'm not going to be doing a ton of racing. So when I go to the races, I'm just not going to have that jump. I'm not going to have that attack. Last year, when it was nothing but training, it just, there was no race legs. The little bit of race opportunity I had, I'm like, yeah, I can't do a 1 minute jump to save my life. So my lesson from it is if I want to get back to some level of racing, I have to race. I have to put my time in at some races.
I don't want to pick solely on you, but I do have a question that I think could pertain to a lot of people out there. And I don't ask this question to pick on you.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I don't. Because you know where I'm going with this?
No.
No? Okay. You're getting to that age where maybe some people, it's kind of that lose it or use it scenario. And I don't know if I'm wrong or right with that, but is it also a matter of people that have sort of missed the racing for, in your case, it's almost a couple of years now, right? Will you ever be able to get it back, or because it has happened in this period of your life, you're almost 50, for those who don't know.
My racing age will be 50 this year.
Yeah. So just because I'm thinking there's probably a lot of people out there listening that are maybe in this same boat, same age groups, et cetera.
Will I be able to race at the level I raced at even 10 years ago when I was 40? No.
No.
Some of that's simply because back then I was training 20 plus hours a week. I don't have that time now. Could I achieve that same level if I had the same time to train? Yeah, my answer would be not everything, but close.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things you lose with age. You don't really lose the endurance. You don't really
Sure.
lose the stamina. Those were always my strengths, fortunately. I was never the sprinter. I was never the big jump, which are the things you tend to lose with age. So I never was that good at what you tend to lose with age. So I've probably become a little more of a tank.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I need to, back when I was training 15 years ago, I leaned into my strengths and I had good enough a jump that it didn't cause me to lose races. I would say the difference now is I have to do some work on that side or I am going to get popped in the races,
Mm-hmm.
or more than I used to.
Right.
Let's hear from Dr. Steven Seiler, who has a few goals for 2021.
It is definitely fair to say that 2020 was a strange year for me because I'm used to traveling. And so during this year, I haven't been outside of Norway since March, so I've trained more consistently. I've trained more in terms of hours this year. And with good consistency, I was already kind of training indoors, so that really wasn't a big change. It was just maybe I had a little bit better conscience for being an indoor cyclist since everybody else was in the indoors for a while too. But I was using the Zwift platform. I was racing indoors. It works for my research. It works for it's time effective and all these things. And I almost never fall off the bike indoors. So that's what I was doing already. But then in 2020, I made some very specific goals. I said, hey, I want to be top 10 in these short B races. I want to figure out how to handle these surgy, stochastic kind of races that are typical for Zwift. And I did that. I got better. And one of the reasons I got better is I just started using races as high-intensity interval sessions. So I guess you could say my hard sessions were very specific. And it worked. I got better, and my, the numbers, the typical power duration curve numbers improved. So I was successful in the B category. I got promoted to A. That was a bit tougher, but it is tougher. But I could say that 2020, I achieved the goals that I had in my little limited world of indoor cycling. Now, 2021, I'm taking a step back. I kind of feel like I hit a plateau. And so now I want to go back. I want to extend. I really want to work on this high-intensity repeatability and get better at races that are more like 2 to 4 hours. Really push myself mentally, on the indoor training circuit, as you might call it, with this long stuff. And then because I'm doing some research in that area, it's always good for me to do those kinds of sessions a lot because it helps me to think about how to study them. Now, 2020 for my daughter, who I coach, she set a PB for the half marathon in March, and then right after that, it was a lockdown. It was at times good for her, but at times very tough. And doing all this solo stuff, she actually ran a solo 10,000 meter personal best on the track on a windy day, which I thought was one of the most remarkable performances she had all year. But otherwise, the competition schedule was really unpredictable. And I think when she did get to race, it was almost always with very high level performers. And so she was kind of, it was stressful. So 2020, she had some good, came out of it, some tougher periods, but overall, I think she really learned a lot. She learned a lot about training. We learned a lot about how to, we went from the 7 to 9 and 10 day cycles and so forth. So lots of experiments going on for a young athlete. And now 2021, for her, she's moved to Oslo, and she is training with a really good club, one of the best in Norway. She's doing some new studies. Right now it's digital, we're still in that lockdown situation right now, but it's going to be an exciting transition. I'm not going to be her coach, at least not her main coach. She's going to have a coach in Oslo, and he and I have, I've transferred the baton to him, and we've had a good discussion on that. And so she wants to train a bit more like a middle distance athlete to improve her speed and improve her, short game, which we hope will extend to half marathon and marathon down the road. So that's a goal for her. 2021 for her, it's going to be uncertain, just like it is for lots of athletes. The competition schedule is really unclear. So the key is training and personal development, filling gaps, getting stronger, and that's what we'll continue to do in 2021. I know she will too. And then as far as adventure goes, I hope I get to eventually travel again, but I also want to work with this team Uno X that I'm connected to. I would like to join them for some training camps or races, and I always feel like that's a great learning opportunity for a sports scientist to get down and get dirty with the realities of the training process, the competition process, in a high performance environment. So I think that's necessary kind of continuing education for people like me, and I hope I get to do that some this year again. So that's the plan for me, and we just have to take it as it comes in 2021, but it's going to get better.
All right. Ryan, let's jump over to you for a bit. Tell us a little bit about what 2020 was like for you. Was it as negative as Trevor's experience, or maybe were you a bit more creative? Did you get more out of it? What were the lessons that you learned?
Well, you know me, I'm usually rainbows and unicorns, right?
Well, I mean, according to your shirt today, you're absolutely, it doesn't have rainbows, it doesn't have unicorns, but it has many colors.
It does.
And you're not wearing shorts.
Right.
He's wearing pants, let's be clear. He's got clothing on.
Yes, he is wearing pants. We have had days where it's snowing outside and Ryan shows up in shorts and flip-flops.
And a down coat.
He's that
Colorado.
kid. He's that kid from high school, and you're like, why is he doing this? So tell us more about 2020.
2020. So 2020 was pretty positive overall.
Good.
Yeah. I think I went into it with expectations to race, and that obviously didn't happen. I think I actually got one race in the fall, which was nice. In the year, things were fairly normal, and then they changed quickly, and I just assumed, okay, this will just be a year where we're not doing much racing, so just find some other things to do. And then quickly became gainfully unemployed in the spring, and then I was like, well, now hell, I could train my face off and just see what happens.
Yeah.
So we had these plans to, go back to the family farm in Oregon, live on this huge farm. And I was just going to be training in Oregon all year. But then the big boy came out and said, no, you probably need to look for a job. So
are you saying that us hiring you destroyed your 2020 training plans?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying the injury I got destroyed part of my 2020 training plans. I had this vision of training in Oregon all summer, and just it was awesome. Yeah. But then I decided I needed to look for work. So I ended up staying here, which meant that I was 6-7 weeks of just me and looking for work and doing that. And the family did go out to Oregon. So all of a sudden I had a 7-week training camp. And so I think it was, and I was also coaching a junior team at the time. So usually the way it works out is I tend to race in the spring, like April, May, I'll knock out some races, then start up with the juniors, focus on them, and it's just too hard for me to, train with them, do my own training, do my own racing, and focus on their stuff. So this, with no races, was nice because we could just focus on, hey, let's just have fun outside, do some good training, get you guys fit, and if stuff comes up, we'll do it. Toward the end of that big training block, actually, I hit my first ever, it was just over 21 hours of training in a week, so that was great. That was a big positive. One of the things I took away from it was, as I was kind of building up to that and just really enjoying a lot of it, I was realizing, man, it's just a lot of time only on the bike. So that was really a good way to drive home the need for cross training and other sort of recovery modalities during that time. So it was a really nice kind of learning experience that I wouldn't have otherwise had. That was great. And then as soon as I hit that big week, I was mountain biking with the kids the week after, got injured, and then took multiple weeks of forced recovery. So A lot of ups and downs, but a lot of learning experiences too.
All right, let's hear from Hannah Finchamp, who has a goal that's going to take her to Tokyo.
Yeah, I think this is a great question because I think a lot of athletes, be it amateurs or pro athletes, will say that, for me, 2020 was the biggest training year I've ever had. And that's because I wasn't traveling for a lot of races. I wasn't tapering and recovering. And, it was just a year to really train. And that was certainly hard. And I don't necessarily want another one of those, but I think that it was highly beneficial, especially for someone like me. I was in 2020, I was named to the Olympic long team, which means that I'm one of 6 women who we have 3 spots for the mountain bike women in Tokyo. So of the 6 of us, they will take 3. And, I'm probably the underdog in that group. And so for me, I needed this time to really work on my weaknesses, to really improve. And so for me, this year was just that. It was time to make a big step, to put in big efforts and big hours that I wouldn't always have the time to do when I'm traveling or racing and all of that. And so in that way, in 2020, I'm on a very broad range. I'm looking forward to seeing how all of that work pays off. And very specifically, I'm excited to see what I can do in terms of trying to make that short list for the Olympics.
Yeah, I got to think that that's the big thing for 2021.
Yeah.
Yep.
And congratulations for making that the list of 6. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Jana. Speak up, Jana. So Jana, tell us first how new you are to this sport that you've quickly become obsessed with.
I had never really ridden a bike. Of course, who hasn't ever ridden a bike? I had ridden a little bit, very casually, and was so interested in all that we were talking about in the first few months of working. And I don't know how it came up, but Chris had an extra bike laying around. And
I have a lot of extra bikes laying around.
and said, here, go ride around on this. And so I just did. In March, I just started riding. It worked out really well with quarantine as my social calendar evaporated and all I had to do was work and nothing. So I just started riding and I just rode as much as I possibly could. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I'm from Colorado. And so I know all these suburbs and all these parts of town, but had never really spent any time in the mountains near Boulder and really found a new love for Colorado in 2020 as I loved riding the bike and just getting to enjoy the nature, and am really appreciative of everyone's support. Not just Chris, but Trevor and Ryan. I mean, everyone. Colby has been so encouraging, giving me great advice about what not to do as I did all of the wrong things and continue to do all of the wrong things. But no, it's been cool. I've learned a lot. It was a fun year for me, as opposed to Trevor's disappointing.
So that could be I'm the negative one here.
Yeah. What if you look back on 2020, what were those things that you said, man, that was a big accomplishment from starting from zero essentially and hitting some goals?
Well, I quickly became obsessed with Strava.
Nice.
As that was introduced to me and I saw the numbers start adding up. The elevation numbers were fun to see. And then of course the mileage was fun. And I ended up, I had no goals because I had no idea of what I was even going to do. So I ended up riding over 3,000 miles last year, and I was just shy of 300,000 feet elevation climbing for the year. 290 something.
290. Oh,
thousand.
like not 290 feet. Because if that were the
No.
case, I would say go for the 11:58 ride on the night before New Year's and get it done. Okay, so you were close. Those are big numbers for a absolute novice.
It was fun.
And you completed the Festive 500.
I did. Yes.
Which is awesome.
I went to California for the
Ryan
holidays.
didn't even complete the Festive 500, and he's been riding a bike for 47 years. That's not true. He's not even 47. But that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
But you had to go to California to do it. So you kind of are wimpy.
I didn't do it on Zwift. I'm a wimp and I don't like riding in the cold. So yes.
Yeah.
So let's hear some more goals and assessments of 2020 from Julie Young.
With this year being an off year, I actually just decided to take a breath and kind of go with the flow. I didn't really set any serious personal goals. I've been racing for so many years in some form or another, trail running, road racing, mountain biking, gravel, cyclocross, Xterra, XC skiing. It was kind of nice to take a break and just not be bound to a race schedule and go back to basics in some respects. I mean, that said, I definitely miss the racing as it is, quote, my bar scene and way to gather with friends, and definitely love the racing because I feel that's the best way for me to learn. My friends push me to be better in all aspects of performance. But that said, it was relaxing just to, again, not be bound to a schedule and working on logistics to get to races and in some ways go back to basics. I've always known since national team and pro team days that I do this because I love the lifestyle. But this year really re-emphasized that to me. I love it, and I loved it this year because it is that thing that I own. It's the way I can continue to challenge myself and keep learning and improving. For me, training time is as much metaphysical and meditation as it is physical. It definitely allows me to keep balance in my life and I feel be better at all aspects of my life, my personal relationships, and have more clarity and productivity in work. And I think this year, probably more than any year, it really emphasized to me that it gives me mental health as much as physical health. As far as adventure and race plans for 2021, I am kind of playing it by ear. Definitely hope to jump back into mountain bike racing this spring and summer. If all goes according to plan, would probably start my season at the Sea Otter Classic. It's just a super fun venue, and I love camping there with friends. Also, probably focus on some races that are in my local area around my home in Truckee, like the Carson Epic. It is an amazing race. The organizers have threaded together a network of world-class trails to make the course, so that's super fun. And then I probably will make a trip out to Colorado and up to Ketchum to see friends and probably do a race along the way. So looking forward to it.
Very good.
Chris.
Oh, me.
Back to
What
you.
about you?
Yeah.
How was your 2020?
2020 was, well, I would back up even further and say that generally I'm in this transition mode. I'm not as much of a racer as I was years ago. And when I worked for VeloNews, there was some essentially obligation for me to do races, which I liked because it took me to some amazing places. Taiwan, Israel, all over the U.S., to these great gravel races in the last few years that are really fun events. But 2020 was basically the first year where I didn't have to do anything if I didn't want to. And I didn't have a plan, you know. I've been also sort of fading out of cyclocross. that being in the fall, it wasn't even on my mind when 2020 started. As I always have goals for myself, and usually they're more personal challenges, personal records that I want to set, adventurous things that I want to do. So I have this list year round, and I just kind of roll through it. When March hit and everything was shut down, I just kind of rolled more onto that list. I think I got a little carried away. I put too many personal challenges on that list. I didn't really allow myself to commit to one full-fledged. And so, one of the things was, I want to, because I'm getting back into running, I want to set new PRs, beat the times that I was doing in high school, which that was 25 years ago when I was setting these times, and I'm not that person anymore. So that was crazy, but I got pretty close. At the same time, I was like, I should see how fast I can climb 10,000 feet. And I did that once, and I tried to go. The pacing was all wrong because I was also trying to set a PR on the Magnolia climb, which is a brutal climb, while doing a 10,000 foot ride in as short amount of time as I could. So I was all over the place with these personal challenges. It was fun. It kept me going. It was great, but I never really gave it a solid whack, I wouldn't say. So sure, that's a lesson learned. Don't spread yourself so thin with all these personal challenges because you'll never reach peak performance in any one of them. I was pretty happy with some of the other things that I did. I'm kind of a bike commuter too, so I don't put up big miles every year, but over a third of all of my total miles were riding to and from work, which I was happy with. I did some creative things like ride through 5 New England states on a single ride, which I thought was fun. Did the massive ride with Ben Delaney for the winter solstice. I have this thing for riding big events on both equinoxes and both solstices, and if there's a solar eclipse, I'd probably try to think of a good way to make that into an occasion for a big ride. So I did a lot of those things, and yeah, I learned overall that these things are, for me at this point in my life, really as satisfying, if not more satisfying, than a lot of the races that I could be doing. I've done a lot of races. Some of them I'd never need to do again. I like, at this point in my life, doing things that I'm not sure I can do. I like that. I also like being not great at things and doing that. You can make the argument of what I am great at or not great at on a bike, but I'm talking about intentionally doing something on a bike. Like I bought a trials bike this year too, a street trials bike, and I thought, I'm going to suck at this. I will probably break something on my body doing this, but that's what I want, that challenge. Starting over, learning what it's like to be a novice again. I think that's a really good set of lessons you can learn from that experience. And so I took that opportunity in 2020 to do such things.
Next up is Dr. Stephen Chung, who has a very similar challenge to Chris.
Hey, Fast Talk Labs listeners. This is Dr. Stephen Chung. I'm a professor at Brock University, and just like you, 2020 certainly didn't work out for me in any way that I expected. I had plans for a big bikepacking trip in Iceland for 2 weeks with some friends that we've been planning for over a year, so that got shot down. And after an injury-plagued year in 2019, I was planning on making my triumphant return to cyclocross also this past fall, and again, that didn't happen either. But in some ways, it was a neat kind of confirmation that I was into sport, and I have been into sport for the right reason, because even though I wasn't training for anything, and even though all of my riding was solo rides by myself, that I actually put in more time on the bike than in many years over the last 30 years. And part of it was because I wasn't traveling anywhere for conferences and missing out on 2 weeks or more of riding at a time. but I just found I really enjoyed being out on the bike and just pedaling by myself. So I think that was a nice confirmation that I'm in the sport for the right reason. So that's something positive to carry through. For 2021, what are my plans? Again, in Ontario, we have already decided that there's not going to be any sanctioned events in terms of mass start events. So that means racing is out, and most likely cyclocross this fall is going to be out also, and along with most club rides. So it's going to be, in some senses, more of the same. How am I going to deal with it? What are my goals? I would love to get in a lot more bike packing of just being by myself, and or maybe with my wife, and going on bike packing trips. And I've started collecting bits and pieces of equipment that's going to help me in that quest. So that's going to be one goal. That's something I haven't really explored. I'd planned to do in 2020, so I hope to get that off the ground in 21. And if it was ever possible, I would love in 2021 to do something like the Oregon Gravel Grinder, a kind of an off-road multi-day gravel type event where there's some group riding, some kind of participation, and kind of that vibe of being in a gravel atmosphere over multi-days. So I think most of my plans for 2021 ideally is going to focus on bike packing, which is going to switch my training towards a lot of endurance and a lot of solo time on the bike and building that aerobic base. I hope you guys have a great year, and that first off, you stay healthy and safe throughout this pandemic, and that you fulfill your goals for the coming year.
Here at Fast Talk, we're hopeful that 2021 will be our comeback year. We've signed up for some ambitious adventures to help motivate and inspire us to make this year so much better than the last. How about you? What are your big, scary goals? What adventures have you planned for your comeback year? Tell us what you're planning. Just record a voice memo on your smartphone and email it to info@fasttalklabs.com. We'd love to hear from you and to share your recording on a future episode of Fast Talk. You can also head over to the forum on our website. That's forums.fasttalklabs.com to join the conversation. Let's shift gears, shall we? Let's look ahead. And again, let's say, in a hypothetical sense, 2021 is going to be normal. We can say under our breaths, probably not going to be normal, but let's just pretend it's going to be normal and talk about what we want to do in this upcoming year. And also, we have some announcements to make. We each have chosen an event or a race that we want to do, and we're going to build towards that race, and we're going to document that build up, the training, the prep, and the race itself, and potentially the aftermath of that along the way. And we're going to be producing articles, videos. We haven't planned this out yet. It's a little early, but we're going to have a bunch of interesting content that will help you learn how we're doing it and hopefully apply it to your situation. So anybody want to go first?
Are we including my re-kicking your butt on Zwift in March in this? Or
that can be one.
Okay.
And we'll also put on the list the times that I get so far ahead of you on climbs outside that I climb up onto cliffs in order to take your photograph.
Yeah, but we're talking about looking ahead, not looking behind.
You don't think that's ever going to happen again, do you? All right, let's start with Ryan. Ryan, what do you hope to accomplish in 2021?
With the challenge that I've chosen, I've never done anything like it, so definitely a little bit of that novice feeling in a way. Well, I guess I can never say never did anything like it. I did once, but it wasn't to this degree. So the event that I chose is the Breck Epic.
The full one.
Yeah.
Not the Breck Epicurious.
Right.
Which is the 3-day. You're choosing the 6-day.
Yes. It still scares me to say
Good
yes
for you.
to that.
Good for you.
So I did do a 3-day stage race in 2019 and enjoyed it, and it was really fun. Last couple of summers, I mean, I've had, it would be like an Equinox, just long, big ride on the mountain bike, take the single speed out, do, pretty much all day long on trails. Like, that's fairly normal, to have a challenge like that. But this one, I've ridden in Breck before, and I'm fairly familiar with the trails, and I know how hard they are. And it's higher elevation than where I was last time, and it's 3 more days, and it's longer, and there's more climbing. So,
but if you think about it, it's only 2 3-day stage races, which sounds pretty simple.
That way, right?
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar with Breck Epic, it is high elevation. It is a lot of single track. It's beautiful. You probably get up over 12,000 feet on multiple occasions, not every day, but on multiple occasions over the passes. So yeah, this is a big challenge.
Yeah, and having experienced 3-day race in the past, it didn't have that much elevation gain. The days weren't as long, and I know how I felt after those 3 days. Like, it's pretty cooked. So I think, this will be a pretty solid challenge.
Have you created a list of other mini challenges leading up to this to help you prepare for it?
I mean, there's only one other race, but I think I haven't put a lot of other challenges on that list, because I think for me it's going to be more about keeping the consistency and getting the good training in, because Trevor and I, whenever we ride, I mean, he's the classic time trialist or diesel engine, and you can go forever. I'm more of, let me go out and do a 20-minute short track race and I'm happy with that, or I can go blow myself up for 5 minutes and be happy. But to go hours and hours and day after day is completely not my jam.
Plus, you have a family, which is another part of the balancing act here, I would assume.
Yeah. So 2 kids, family. It's a lot. So I think for me, what makes me feel most comfortable getting ready for this is to focus on, get even more structure in. Focusing on something this long is going to require a high focus on the training. So, in other years, if I'm doing like a single day mountain bike race or like short track, I don't need to be as good about maybe my base work. I can mess up a little bit here and there, or have a little bit less structure in and not think about it because I'm focused on family things. But I think this year it's going to require more of that consistency. So that's already started, and it feels good to be able to do that. So I think just, with the amount of bandwidth left over after thinking about this, then I think this is good.
And it's August.
It's August, yeah.
Let's hear from Jen Sharp, who's going to tell us about her 2020 and her goals for 2021.
Yeah, 2020 became a year of just a pivot year, I would say. And I found that not only as an athlete, you were all of a sudden the rug was pulled out from underneath you, but also as a coach, wait, all of the goals just went out the window. And so it became a period of reframing and pivoting toward, okay, well, all of those outcome goals are no longer there. So how can we shift this to a process-oriented year where we look at the little things, addressing the little injuries that we may not have had the time to do before, the mental component. I mean, there are so many actual positives that came out of 2020 personally. And I find that all of the athletes that I've worked with have huge gains that I'm excited to see what they apply to 21, if it happens in 21.
Yeah, so let's turn our attention to 2021. In a hypothetical post-COVID world, what are you most looking forward to in 2021? Events, adventures, challenges? What's percolating?
Yeah, one of my favorite series is the Tour of America Dairyland, in that it's almost like it's a bike circus or bike camp. And I'm really looking forward to not only racing there, but also connecting with the community, because you see so many different friends from all over the country that come and convene into Wisconsin and eat cheese together. And yeah, I mean, the hardest part I would say about this year has been not having that face-to-face interaction with your friends and your community. And it's been distanced, and sure, we're still there, and sure, we're doing Zoom and connecting in that way, but there's just something about feeling someone's energy next to you that you just don't get through online connections. So.
All right. Jana, what do you want to give the reveal of what you've chosen first and talk about how, what else you might have put on the calendar to prepare for it, or what we can help you with to prepare for it?
I need lots of help. First of all, I've already made a mistake. I think that's going to be the story of this year for me, is all the newbie mistakes I get to make and learn from. I did not register for the race that I actually wanted to do in time.
Ah, that
and
is
it
a
filled
mistake.
Up.
Yeah. And it was because it was a gravel race and they're very popular, correct?
Which I now know.
Yes. So you've picked one in its place.
Yes. So I am going to do the Roll Massif Crooked Gravel Race in Winter Park on July 24th. There are 2 distances, and as a newbie, I chose the easier 65-mile version.
Which is not easy.
There is a 93-mile version, which I contemplated for half a second.
I think I talked you out of it when I said that's all above 8,000 feet.
Yes,
65 miles will feel like 90 miles. The 93-mile version would feel like 130 miles. So you're not wimping out by any means by choosing the 65.
And I have a teeny tiny taste of riding. I did one ride from Vail to Copper and back last year. So up at a high elevation, and it was very difficult.
Yes.
I also have yet to do a century ride. So I was hesitant to do an almost 100-mile race when actually one of my goals for this year is to do a century ride.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that by yourself, or do you want to do it in a, like an event?
Yes. All of the above.
Both.
Yes.
Both in.
Yes.
Cool.
That's the plan. If anybody wants to do a century ride.
Well, I'll get to it, but yeah, I might take you out on one. Or you can take me out on one, or we can go together.
Let's do it.
Yeah, sweet. Any other sort of goals that you have?
I have some other goals, and we'll just see how the year pans out in terms of travel and the amount of time these things take to do. And so these things might not happen this year, but eventually I would like to ride the entire California coastline. I think that California is awesome, and I love the ocean, and I have family there, so I can see putting together some fun rides out there. And I also want to ride and not walk the Camino del Santiago in Spain, which is a common pilgrimage in the Catholic Church, but many people like to just go and walk that route. And as I research for this podcast, there are many different routes coming from many different locations. So I will fine tune that plan as I actually make plans. I don't think we're even allowed to go to Europe at this point. So.
Right.
It's a little tougher.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great.
All right. Next up with their goals is Grant Hollicky.
Yeah, 2020, huh? What a year. I think I was pretty fortunate. I feel like I was able to walk out of 2020 as a better athlete. I don't know if I'm a faster athlete, and I don't know if that's my goal anymore at 47, but I definitely feel like I gained some things. I really gained a better appreciation of a schedule and how important a schedule is. Whether a daily one or a monthly one, just having that something to follow and knowing what's coming up. And I think that this year made it hard to know what was coming up or know what to have that external thing that we're training for in a race or an adventure or something along those lines. So I think I did a good job of understanding and finding a way to create that schedule and create those targets and create that flow in a training plan that wasn't there naturally because of racing. The other thing, I just started to find the joy on the bike again. I started finding real love of doing workouts just for the sake of a workout, of pushing myself and seeing how far I could go and how hard I can go. And I just love the feeling of being wrecked. I think that's the former swimmer in me, that feeling of being at the dinner table and just trashed. And I really enjoy it. And I found myself telling myself what I tell my athletes is you've got to find that dog with the head out the window feeling in a workout. You know, the tongue's wagging, the ears are flapping in the wind, and it's just this giant smile. So if you can find that while you're going full gas, then you found something special. And I think I was able to find that in a lot of workouts this year. And that was really nice. The other thing we did is we created some of our own markers. We did some big charity rides. The first one I did 200K on Zwift, and then recently did a ride similar to what Chris did when rode all the hours of daylight on the solstice. And so creating something like that was more about an achievement, it was more about completion, gave me something to work towards and gave me something to train. And that was really especially true, I think, in December here, once Cross shut down. And it gave me something to look forward to for a month, and it was just scary enough that I had to focus on it. You know, in 2021, honestly, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to getting back to is interacting with athletes and interacting with the people I race with. I have some great relationships with people across the country that I really love racing with. Some of my fellow coaches at Forever Endurance, like Chris McGovern, just having the chance to interact with him and interact with those people that I race with and learn from them and just enjoy myself. And that's really the biggest thing I'm looking forward to in 2021 is that face-to-face contact, that ability to look into an athlete's eyes, put your arm around them when it's a terrible day and high five them when it's a great day. And just the people that I race with across the country that I haven't had a chance to see, and get that opportunity to go bang heads with a Paul Bonds again. And like I said, get an opportunity to break down a race post-mortem with someone like Chris McGovern. That's really what the highlight is going to be for me in 2021. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
When it comes to picking things you're not sure you can do, that's where I went with my challenge this year. I am evolving as a cyclist, so I've chosen to do a bike packing race. It's 2,500 kilometers. It is in Ireland. We'll see if it happens, but hypothetically, I will be doing this in June. The people that take these things super seriously will be completing this for less than 5 days. So huge amount of riding. People that have listened to the show before, specifically the bike packing randonneuring episode that we did, will be familiar with this race because Matt Roy, our guest, one of our guests, has done this, and he won it as part of a team. And they slept in Airbnbs and bed and breakfast every night, and still won as the team, and they did it in 7 days. But if you average it out, they're still riding well over 150 miles a day to be able to do it in 7 days. So this is a massive difference from racing cyclocross, which is kind of what my bread and butter was just a couple of years ago and for a decade before that. To prepare for this, I just need to ride a lot. I need to be strategic, of course, but I do need to ride probably significantly more than I normally do in January, February, March, April, May, and then we'll see what June holds.
Which you mean is more than just commuting to work.
More than just commuting to work. And so to that end, I've kind of put some things on the list of goals to encourage me to ride. I like to keep streaks alive, if you will. So one of the things I thought might help with that is I want to ride a century, at least a century, and at least one in every month of 2020. 100 miles, January, February, March, April, all the way through. I will definitely do it in June if I do this event. I did one in November and I did one in December already. I did the 150 in December. So I'm already on a bit of a streak. I need to fit one in January here. I have this crazy idea to ride from my house to the Kansas border on gravel roads, which is approximately 10 miles. Sleep in my bivvy on the border, because that would be cool, with half my body in Colorado, and I'll probably put my head in Colorado and my feet in Kansas, but we'll see. Or maybe I'll put my left side in Kansas
Sorry
and my
to
right
any
side.
of our Kansas listeners out there.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, Colorado's home, so and then ride back the next day. So yeah, sure. Alex Howes and Spencer rode from Alex's house to Kansas in a day, but did they sleep on the border? No. Did they ride back the next day? No.
Do you
Can I
why
actually?
nobody rides back?
Because of the wind and the elevation change. Oh, I know.
Riding there is a tailwind all downhill.
We'll see. We'll see. This is one of those things. We'll see if I do it. But it's on the list. It would also be nice to ride my longest ride ever. And of course, currently since I've done the race formerly known as DK200, now Unbound, I've done that a couple times. The course is always different. I did it was 205 miles one year. So if I do this ride to Kansas and I don't sleep there, I'll probably just ride around in circles on the border or whatever to get that longest ride. I also have some running goals. I want to run there's a set of trails up through the Indian Peaks Wilderness area just outside of Boulder. Beautiful area. And you can string some trails together to get a marathon on trails. And I've done some pretty long trail runs up there not recently, but last fall. And I really have loved it. So I want to do that too. So all of these sorts of things are geared towards making me a more durable endurance creature so I can go to Ireland and survive and be a completer rather than a competer. I should probably mention the name of the race. It's the Transatlantic Way.
Glad you said what you learned in 2020 was not to have too many goals on the list.
Oh, there's so many more, Trevor.
I'm looking at the list right now. You just gave the highlights.
I just gave the highlights. Actually, one that you and I think, should do together is this vertical hour. We worked together.
So me beat you again?
Whatever. We did the hour record together. You coached me. I suffered my ass off on the track for 60 minutes. It would be cool. This is a thing that people do, not too often. Joe Dombrowski really wanted to do this back in the days when the hour record was hot. The vertical hour record. See how many vertical feet you can climb in 60 minutes. Now, do you do that on one climb? Or do you pick a really steep segment and do it
That's a good question.
as many times? That's the
This could be
experiment.
fun. We should do this.
So I think that would be another cool just experiment. And obviously you're riding hard, but it's also kind of a logistics challenge. What's the best segment? How do you stay as low as possible in Colorado so that if you do that 60-minute climb, you're going to end up pretty high, and that's going to affect you. So maybe it's better to pick a segment down low that you can just do massive number of repeats on. So
I bet would be on the one climb. There's some good climbs we can do here where you get a lot of vertical and it would take you an hour.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yep. So put it on our list.
Okay.
Trevor.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What else have you got for 2021, Trevor?
I have not as many goals as Chris.
Wimp.
Yeah, fair enough.
Smarty pants.
I've already accomplished one in 2021. Yesterday.
Yeah. I know. We've heard all about it. If it were an actual bike ride and not just a pedaling contest inside a room, then maybe it would be a thing that I would care about. But
the excuses start coming out.
And if that makes anybody who's a Zwift fan out there mad, I don't care.
Making friends and taking names everywhere he goes.
Try a bikepacking race through the sideways wind of the Western Ireland coast.
You're going to be on the bikepacking ride with people insulting bikepacking rides.
Probably.
Why do you idiots do these
Probably.
things?
Yep.
Let's hear from Colby Pierce and his goal for 2021, which is here in Colorado.
Looking back at 2020, my athletic accomplishments, I was really focused on sweeping my own doorstep. I studied Tai Chi in 2020 and completed my Tai Chi program, which amounted to a YouTube video where I studied the 37 postures in the Chen Ming Qing Tai Chi style. And that was pretty rewarding. It took me several months to make it through that. It's really complicated. Now I've got the flow down and I can practice that regularly. I also studied further with the Czech Institute, including IMS 3, which is Integrated Movement Specialist 3. And that's more on the coaching side of things, but it also plays into my own movement practice because every time I do more Czech training, I integrate more movements into my athletes' programs. But prior to doing that, I learned them myself. So this is things like core assessments and range of motion assessments. And that helps me become a better coach and learn more about my own self and then pass that on to my athletes. Strength and conditioning techniques and different exercises, programming rules, things of that nature. As far as my general athletic practice, I was really trying to sweep my own doorstep. Looked after some strength, made some progress in my running. For me, running has been something that I haven't been able to do real consistently without risk of injury. Maybe the last 6 years or so, I've been running in the falls and in the winters to complement cyclocross when I was actually kind of trying at cyclocross. And I got to the point where I could run on trails for about 45 minutes or an hour. And most of the time I was kind of wrecked afterwards. And sometimes I'd have some injuries kind of flare up. Now I'm to the point where I can run in Vibram 5 Fingers on really technical rocky trail for an hour and a half and I'm good. And that's about as long as I need to run for. I'm not out to do some mega run program, but I want to be functional enough to the point where I could do that and enjoy it. And now I can do that and be injury free. So the focus is to get a little bit faster. So that's something I might actually continue through the summer a little more regularly for this coming season, a fair bit. And then I've just been riding my bike to enjoy it and strength. Fair amount of strength training. Been studying Mike Salemi's kettlebell programs quite a bit and doing some of his workouts. And he's an excellent instructor in my experience. Very well balanced, brings a lot to the table in terms of being mindful of your total practice, breath during your strength training, technique of the kettlebell swing and of the snatch and the clean. And he offers a lot of little tips on how to not crush your wrist when you do a snatch, for example. And so I've been working on refining my technique based on Mike's teachings. So I'm grateful for his work that he does there. I also got to test ride some cool Trek bikes that are prototypes that I can't tell you about because I'd have to assassinate you, but got to test ride some really fun things. So there's that. Definitely more gravel, more off-road, more alternative mode of transportation type of things, meaning not road as much. My road bike is really sad right now. It looks at me from the corner of my garage and a little tear comes out of its little carbon eyeball because it's neglected and dusty. I'm sorry, road bike. I still love you and I will ride you again come the spring. Looking forward to get back on the road bike with very carefully selected routes this spring. 2021, right now on my radar is the Growler, which is a big famous mountain bike here in Gunnison, Colorado, which I've never done. Going to go do that with my good friend Don Powell. Been talking with a couple athletes about doing some crazy adventure races in other countries. Not sure if that's going to happen. Probably not the year to plan it, but I am planning to ride the Colorado Trail with Travis Brown in June. That's the tentative goal right now. And that's going to be a through mountain biking experience, full on grizzly bears and beards and all of it. Eating wildflowers. So that's the plan. That's my 2021 goal. If something like Steamboat Gravel opens up, maybe that would be something I'd be interested in, or possibly, there's some good Winter Park gravel races and things like that. Lesser known Colorado gravel races that'll still be big enough for me, and things that I can just go out and smash some watts and have some fun, but not take it too seriously. Just go enjoy it and be more of an experience-based kind of thing. I think I've proven all my competitive niggles, at least for the short term, focusing on bigger things. And also, after being in the sport for 35 years, when you sign up for a bike race, it's really easy for me to back calculate 10 months out and start to treat every day like it's preparation for competition, because I've been doing it for so long, and I understand the ramifications of every night of sleep, every dietary choice, every equipment nuance. It's a bit, I'll say, south node, to use an astrological term, for me to get too involved into a bike race. I have to really constantly bring myself to a place of balance, because I don't want to foster that part of my personality anymore. Or, as Jonas Carney recently said to me in a conversation, that's a part of my personality I'd like to assassinate. I'm working to evolve and step away from that addiction to that competitive cycle. That has served me enough. I really enjoyed it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that anyone who's in that cycle of their competitive career, that warrior phase, as Paul Chek would say, is doing anything wrong. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing every given day. We're all here to learn our lessons. I'm ready to move into a different direction. I'll say it that way.
So I have one goal, but it's a big goal. This is the year where I get the big 5-0 on my race license. So I am racing as a 50-year-old. Now it seems kind of hysterical to me, but when I was 35, people were telling me I was coming to the end of my career and too old and all that sort of stuff. And I look back at that and I'm like, I was just a baby. What are you talking about? But I'm sure a lot of our listeners can empathize with this, that there is a bit of a bias that certainly, once you're over 40, it's over. By the time you're 50, it's, wow, you can still ride a bike? Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Which I just don't subscribe to. I don't believe that. So the thing I want to do to start out my 50s is to go and do either a Pro 1 or a Cat 1-2 race, one of the bigger ones in the country, and prove I can still be competitive. Mm-hmm. So I haven't picked the event just because we're waiting to see what's going to happen.
Sure.
Right now I'm thinking either Joe Martin or Tour of the Gila.
Yeah, Tour of the Gila is oddly not in its normal early May slot. It's tentatively scheduled for September, I think, or something.
So my one issue is it might overlap with Tobago.
Right.
Otherwise, I would definitely do that. We'll see if I do the Pro 1 or the 1-2. The factor is, to do the Pro 1, you have to be on a team.
Sure.
I've done this many times before. I could find a team willing to take me. But to be honest with you, this is about seeing how well I can perform. If I go guest ride with a team, I'm going to be fetching water bottles.
Yeah, right.
And I want to go to compete. So if it's a choice between being on a Pro 1 team but fetching water bottles, or doing the 1-2 race but being able to compete, I would probably do the 1-2 race. So my whole focus is going to be on building back the form that I need to hopefully be competitive. And I don't know if we want to talk about this now, but it would probably be surprising to people what I feel are going to be the biggest issues to work on versus.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is going to be teased out in much more detail in some of the other articles and content that we put together, workshops, etc. But yeah, if you want to give us just a snippet of what that will look like.
So the short version is, we've talked about this on the show, it's not focusing on that FTP. That, certainly I'm not going to have the threshold power I had 10, 15 years ago, but you'd actually be surprised how close I can get. And, as I said, I wasn't really racing that hard. I wasn't that strong starting about 2015 through 2019. Even then, I was getting my threshold power at certain points up, 30 watts off of what I used to be able to do at my best. So, not that far off. 30 watts is about a level, so good enough to be competitive, probably not good enough to win. Mm-hmm. I went to Cascades, which is used to be a really big stage race in the U.S., in 2017. Wanted to go and do a big race again. And power was good. I mean, I had raced a couple Cat 1-2 races, one stage race down in Syracuse building up to it. And, for example, the Syracuse stage race had a hill climb race. So it's just a very short race, but you still raced as a field. And I was leading the whole field halfway up to the halfway point of that climb. Then a couple of people went around me, but I think I finished like third or fourth. So I was like, okay, threshold power is good. I got to Cascades. Started with a road race that was 110, 120 miles, and I got popped 30 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue wasn't the power. The issue was the ferocity of the race.
Mm-hmm.
There was about a 15-minute climb, 30, 40 minutes into the race, and guys were just going all out. Everybody was fighting for the front, getting ready for that climb. And where I used to be really good at riding at the front of the field, I could never get myself past the top 40. And where I used to know how to slot into the spots and keep myself protected and not waste a ton of energy, I was killing myself. I was killing myself and constantly ending up at the back of the field. So by the time we got to that climb, I was already half smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And probably up that 15-minute climb averaged 40 watts less than I did up the 25-minute climb in Syracuse.
I bet this is the hope here is that our experiences can inform other people's experiences, and I bet that is an issue that a lot of people deal with, is they think that their problem is the 5-minute power or whatever, but really it's what comes before that taps into that energy system that they think they need, and then they don't have it when they need it, sort of, if that makes sense.
There's a lot more to racing than just those numbers. And that's what I saw. So I'm not worried about getting my threshold power to where I need to get it to. I think I'll be able to do that. I am really worried about those other sides, that ability to navigate the field. It is scary. And everybody, the first time they get into a pro race, it's just, oh my God, I never thought it could be like this. And you just learn, I don't know if you just learn to be really dumb and ignore it, or you just build confidence, or what it is. But there was, for most of my career, I didn't mind bumping shoulders. I knew how to navigate the field. I could read the field. I knew how to be where I needed to be. And I just didn't have that when I went to Cascades in 2017. I was getting bumped around. I was getting yelled at. I was ending up at the back of the field. And that as I was talking about before, that jump, that ability to respond, that 1-minute effort, the short efforts, those I see as being my biggest issues for be able to compete in one of these events. So I will do some work this winter on trying to get my endurance back, trying to get the threshold power back. But really a lot of my focus is going to be, and we'll see if I'm able to do this, getting a lot of racing in the legs.
Sure.
To get used to riding in a field again, to get used to navigating a field, to get that fear out of the system. All these other things that just don't show up in the numbers at all. That's going to be my make or break.
The four of us have chosen pretty distinct, pretty difficult challenges, but I think we can all start riding together more and progressing together more and keeping each other motivated.
It's going to be fun.
I am looking forward to this.
Awesome.
I like it. I'm going to need some of your centuries every month here to help with
I'm going to need some company if I
So we're going to do like a whole team, little Fast Talk Labs. All go out and do a century together.
We should probably plan on that, yeah. And Dave can, Dave will probably just sit here and work while we do that. Somebody needs to keep the lights on, right?
Are we going to wait for Chris at the top of the climbs?
I won't be at the top of the climbs with you. So you get to decide.
That was another episode of Fast Talk. Subscribe to Fast Talk wherever you prefer to find your favorite podcast, and be sure to leave us a rating and a review. The thoughts and opinions expressed on Fast Talk are those of the individual. As always, we love your feedback. Join the conversation at forums.fasttalklabs.com to discuss each and every episode, and particularly the challenges that Ryan, Trevor, Jana, and I have taken on. We will be available to answer any questions about how much we're suffering through our training and preparation, and so much more. Become a member of Fast Talk Laboratories at fasttalklabs.com/join and become a part of our education and coaching community. For Hannah Fincham, Jen Sharp, Colby Pierce, Julie Young, Grant Holke, Stephen Chung, Dr. Stephen Seiler, Trevor Connor, Ryan Kohler, Jana Martin, I'm Chris Case. Thanks for listening.